I have a question for you. Are we in control of our lives, or is everything just fate? The ancient samurai apparently did not believe in fate. They believed in determined action and prior resolution, meaning resolving oneself to the chaos of life long before it ever happens. And by doing this, you are much more able to meet life's challenges when they come. The samurai believed that you either act with full determination or you accept whatever life gives you and you lose. We often tell ourselves stories about why things happen to us in life, right? Some people blame luck, some people blame society, some people blame it on the stars. Some people think that success is only to do with one's effort. But the samurai saw it differently. They believe that some things in life are unknowable, and that by accepting the unknowable, you unlock yourself to life's greatest wisdoms. And that true mastery can only be done over decades of practice. Today I'm reading from Hagakure, the legendary samurai manual on life and mastery. And I'll share 6 of their ancient samurai secrets that challenge modern thinking in almost every way. We learn why they thought that they could move heaven and earth using sheer determination, their answers to the mysteries of life, and why wisdom doesn't come from knowing, but not knowing. You'll see what I mean. Let's get into it. You cannot tell whether a person is good or bad by his vicissitudes in life. Good and bad fortune are matters of fate. Good and bad actions are man's way. Retribution of good and evil is taught simply as a moral lesson. And he leaves it at that, Yamamoto. Reading this, I felt almost a little bit adrift because my thought was, well, what am I supposed to do with that? Good and bad fortune are matters of fate, and good and bad actions are man's way. Retribution of good and evil is taught simply as a moral lesson. I have also started reading the book of Job recently, and I think this is one of the ultimate takeaways too from that book, which is an even more ancient philosophy, that good and bad are really the concern of mankind. And as Yamamoto puts it, maybe a little bit callously, but he says, retribution of good and evil is taught simply as a moral lesson. There's actually a few other references where he sort of dismisses moral lessons. Like he'll say, oh, that is simply a matter of morality. So I guess we're to understand by that in the samurai way, morality is not something that they deny, but they sort of hold morality in its place, which is ultimately between mankind. Actually, yes, it's true, because in one of our first readings, he says that true wisdom lies beyond righteousness. I think he said even that righteousness is a shallow idea. I mean, where do we place that in a modern context? Because I think in modern and certainly Western civilization, we have an even higher moral sensitivity than it seems that we had before. I'm reading from the 1700s, right? People enslaved people in these times. So simply just looking at the fact that morality changes. I mean, it's only been 300 years, and I think we live in a totally different moral landscape now than Yamamoto. Then I guess in a way he's right to dismiss it. Although I also sense that he is recognizing that within our day-to-day lives, we do have to find a place for morality, even though it's fluid. I think that's where to leave that in. In carefully scrutinizing the affairs of the past, we find that there are many different opinions about them, and that there are some things that are quite unclear. It is better to regard such things as unknowable. Lord Saneori once said, "As for the things that we don't understand, there are ways of understanding them. Furthermore, there are some things we understand just naturally, and again, some that we can't understand no matter how hard we try. It is natural that one cannot understand deep and hidden things. Those things that are easily understood are rather shallow." Yamamoto always, his pattern is always an opening thesis, a kind of a run-on, and then a tight little buttoning up at the end. And I've really fallen in love with his style. It is natural that one cannot understand deep and hidden things. Those things that are easily understood are rather shallow. What I like about this resolution at the end is, I mean, to be fair, it's not very comforting to just say there are things that we don't understand and we'll never understand them and we'll never know them and things. Some people may find a sense of relief in that. Other people may find some anxiety in that. Some people may be frustrated in that and annoyed by that, because it's just like, yeah, well, what am I supposed to do with that now, right? But then he offers this. Those things that are easily understood are rather shallow. So if you find it frustrating that there are things that you will never understand, then maybe the comfort can be found in the fact that if you easily understood it, it would be rather shallow anyway. In a way, I can see myself finding a new appreciation for the mysteries within my own life, the things that I have sought to understand and still haven't understood, and probably will still continue to try and understand. But at the end of the day, the fact that they're not easily understood suddenly now makes them feel all the more precious to me, my own little personal mysteries. That's an interesting way to think about it. Here's a nice little one. No matter what it is, there's nothing that cannot be done. If one manifests the determination, he can move heaven and earth as he pleases. But because man is pluckless, he can pluckless. But because man is pluckless, he cannot set his mind to it. Moving heaven and earth without putting forth effort is simply a matter of concentration. I think there's a biblical reference that's kind of like this, but I'm struggling to remember it. It's something like, like the faith of a mustard seed can move mountains. Let's talk about moving mountains for a second, because I often think about the Egyptians and the pyramids. You talk about people who are moving mountains. These guys made their own mountains. And the rocks that they moved, even to us with our modern technology, are mountainous rocks. We still can't figure out exactly how they did it. But one thing is certain, they absolutely had the determination to do it. And even today, when I think about what are our modern pyramids, obviously, we are building tall, massive buildings now, and huge monuments and things like that, bridges and stuff like that. But we are on the cusp of becoming a multi-planetary species. Like, we are about to break ground on Mars. If that's not a modern pyramid, I don't know what is. If that's not, hey, you can mess around on Earth moving mountains if you want. Let's move a civilization to another planet. Right? So again, determination. I hope I can develop the determination to move the mountains in my own life, certainly. This is a nice one. Senility is when one goes about doing only that towards which he is most inclined. One is able to suppress and hide this while his vigor is still strong. But when he weakens, the essential strong points of his nature appear and are a shame to him. Damn. Yeah, I thought this was a really good one to share because I think many people, like myself, have a tendency to hide within our strengths, right? So the things that you are really good at, you develop a very strong comfort zone, but a comfort zone nonetheless. And this guy, Mr. Yamamoto Tsunetomo, I love his gentle shade, right? He says senility is when one goes about doing only that towards which he is most inclined. What? That's what senility is in your mind. Doing only that to which you are most inclined. One is able to suppress and hide this while his vigor is still strong. So he's not denying that there's strength here, but he says when he weakens, the inevitability of age or whatever, deterioration we're expected to, to face in life. The essential strong points of his nature appear and are ashamed to him. I mean, why would your essential strong points be ashamed to you? I guess if those strong points are only limited to a few areas and don't serve you in this moment. And the fact that this moment, because he says when he weakens, so there's enough to suggest that this moment is inevitable, that we've been put on notice that there will be a time when we will weaken. And whatever strengths we've developed in our comfort zone will no longer serve us. So I suppose the idea is that we should think about this moment of when one weakens and what strengths will best serve us then, and do we have them now? Do we need to step out of our comfort zone in order to develop them, to avoid what he's calling senility? What is called generosity is really compassion. In the Shin-ei, it is written, "Seen from the eye of compassion, there is no one to be disliked. One who has sinned is to be pitied all the more. There is no limit to the breadth and depth of one's heart. There is room enough for all. Whatever you do should be done for the sake of your master and parents, the people in general, and for posterity. This is great compassion. The wisdom and courage that come from compassion are real wisdom and courage. When one pushes or strives with the heart of compassion, what he does will be limitless in strength and correctness. Doing something for one's own sake is shallow and mean and turns into evil. I understood the matters of wisdom and courage some time ago. I am now beginning to understand the matter of compassion." So this is a long one, but I thought he was so reflective and super honest there at the end, that he understood wisdom and courage some time ago, but now he's understanding compassion, and that compassion reveals the real wisdom and courage. That's something very interesting to think about. He's advocating for this sort of ubiquitous compassion. He says, there is no limit to the breadth and depth of one's heart. There is room enough for all. When seen from the eye of compassion, there is no one to be disliked. This is interesting. Is this like a love your enemies type of thing? That this metaphor of there's no limit to the length and breadth of one's heart. So in that way you can find compassion for any and everybody. And then of course the classic question is, any and everybody? What if it's somebody who kills your loved one? How do you find compassion for that? This must be the true test of it. The superlative of that. One can understand this, I imagine, in theory, but only in true moments where your compassion is tested. If you can, in that moment, still find compassion, then is how I suppose you would understand. I think maybe I get where the courage part is coming from, because I think it would take a great courage to have compassion on the most evil thing that you can imagine. It's a courageous thing to do, to seek for compassion for a person like that. Because what do you have to do in order to find compassion for something that is vastly outside of yourself, for something that you consider to be the superlative evil? It's scary, because in order to find compassion for that, I think you have to try and see yourself in other people. If you can in any way see yourself doing that or being that or whatever it is, then it's as terrifying and as abhorrent as it is, and it may not work, still it would require, I think, a great deal of courage to do that. So by now, this is what I consider to be a Yamamoto classic. When one has made a decision to kill a person, even if it will be very difficult to succeed by advancing straight ahead, it will not do to think about going at it in a long, roundabout way. One's heart may slacken, he may miss his chance, and by and large, there will be no success. The way of the samurai is one of immediacy, and it is best to dash in headlong. Yeah, that's definitely a Yamamoto classic. Dash in headlong. He says, when one has made a decision to kill a person. Yo, this is what I'm saying about, obviously, the relative morality that 300 years ago, it was perfectly normal to write something like this down. That, hey, this is like afternoon tea time with Yamamoto must have been wild. I'm just picturing this cat sipping on some sake and just going, hey, my man, listen, when you've made up your mind to kill a person, don't waste time, man. Just rush into it. Your heart may slacken. You may lose your opportunity. We're samurai. We rush in headlong, even if it's difficult, even if you're gonna die. Just, come to think of it, I wonder how much sake he is like drinking as he's writing this stuff down. But hey, this is a wise elder samurai, So if he survived this long, there must be some merit to his headlong approach. And then, of course, looking at this in a modern lens, we're always gonna imagine that this is a metaphor, right? Maybe not back then, but today for sure, we have to take this as a metaphor. I suppose whatever our version is of killing a person. So I think this is probably a competition. That's probably the easiest way to look at it. Let's say you set out to prove a point to someone that you can do something, or prove a point to yourself. You should just rush into it. Don't hesitate. He says, don't go about it in a roundabout way. Go straight, headlong. And this makes sense. Don't waste time. These are people who, they live like they're already dead. So it's nothing for him to die in pursuit of some reckless revenge, right? Because he's like, hey, I'm dead already, so why not? And again, metaphorically speaking, there is something to that, because you may not be dead yet, but you will be at some point. So why not go after the thing? Why not start the channel, start the business, or write the book, or whatever? Why not just do it? You're not gonna live forever. So if death is already prescribed before you, right? There really is something to this, live as though you're already dead, because in a way it is true, right? The one thing that we can basically say is already true about each of our lives is that one day we are going to die. So it's not a leap to think about oneself as already dead, because your death is already prescribed. So when you accept that, one can find a great deal of freedom in this, actually. First, it's funny because at first I thought about this as a reckless kind of thing, but there really is a freedom to this. When you accept that your death is already true about you, about all of us at some point. So just call it living like you're already dead. And now go on and do that. Live like you're already dead. Wow. Suppose it is scary though, because one is inclined to think about the beautiful things, that come from that. You can go and accomplish things that were seemingly inaccessible to you, that you might have been afraid of or something. But then also you think, oh, what if what someone wants to do is a really terrible thing? And in their mind that they're living like they're already dead. These people are living in a time where it's perfectly normal for someone who has decided to kill you to come and chop your head off, just come and rush at you. And thankfully we don't really live in that time anymore, maybe some places, but generally speaking, the world does not hold that collective morality anymore. So I think it's much more safe. I think this is actually, even though the words are rather chilling, the philosophy is actually safer in our modern times, because thankfully most of what most people are going to want to do is go write a book, or go take a vacation, or go start a business, or go start a podcast, or a YouTube channel, or go whatever, do something cool, go ask out that person that you like, or whatever. It's a tool that brings quite a lot of freedom to the spirit, but one does have to be mindful that some people are not of a good inclination, and this could really be used in a very dark way. But again, according to Yamamoto, morality is a simple thing, is a simple matter between men. There is a wisdom much higher than morality. I suppose you would have to accept that in order to live with a principle like this. Yeah. So definitely something to think about. So let me know what you think.